Iron Supporting Food Banks collects food and cash donations for needy families in Newham Borough and beyond. Please consider making a donation via their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of this stream. Come on, you Irons!
West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. Everywhere we go. West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. West Ham are massive, everywhere we go. Everywhere we go.
Oh, hang on. Press that button and then I will magically appear. It's because I'm half asleep, guys. It's, what can I tell you? It's Christmas. It's a Saturday. I've got to be up early. It is what it is. So you got a rather bleary-eyed, gazy looking at you this morning. But anyway, those of you that are new to the channel, please welcome along and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And for those of you that are little bit longer in the tooth, and even you newbies, please don't forget to drop a like on this stream. It really does help the channel out tremendously, and get involved with your comments on the live chat. This is going to be a quick one from me, sort of like short, sharp compared to what I normally do, probably. So my brother may or may not turn up during the course of this broadcast, so we'll see what happens. But anyway, we're here to discuss the very obvious matter, which that presentation will go through and explain. Our home match against the current league leaders, Liverpool. So this is going to be a tough one, guys. This really is going to be a tough one. Also, keep an eye on the banner at the bottom. It will intermittently change with a few little factoids, such as the officials. This is going to be a tough one. I mean, it was going to be a tough one anyway. I mean, look, my thoughts on Liverpool Football Club. Apart from West Ham, my earliest memory of football actually involves Liverpool. My first memory of football outside of West Ham was the 1984 European Cup final when they beat Roma on a penalty shootout. Bruce Grobbelaar with the spaghetti legs, if you're old enough to remember that. That was my first memory of football that didn't involve West Ham. I was about 8 years old at the time. So they're a team, obviously, that are steeped in tradition. They're a team that are obviously, they're a huge challenge, as that graphic there illustrates. We've played each other 56 times in the history of the Premier League. We've got 1 win at Anfield to our name, 9 wins at home. 10 wins in total, but they absolutely dominate with 35 wins in total, 21 at home, 14 away. 11 of those contests have ended in a draw. They're obviously a team that in recent years have been operating at the very top end of the Premier League, which is not really something that we can compete with. They play a style of football that is very, very pleasing on the eye. I've got to say, I'm very, very jealous. Excuse me. Very, very jealous of Liverpool fans, obviously watching what they have to sort of like to sit in front of and be entertained by, compared to what we've had to endure over the last however long, 3-4 seasons. But, you know, in terms of entertainment value. But yeah, they're a fantastic club, steeped in tradition, and they're doing very well this season, it has to be said. I mean, at this precise moment in time, and you will have to forgive me, guys, because you will see a league table during this presentation that was taken before the 2 fixtures last night. So it hasn't been updated. Please forgive me. But, you know, they're 7 points clear with, they were 7 points clear until yesterday. It's now back down to 4. But Liverpool have a game in hand, so it could go back to 7 quite easily. They're running away with the Premier League at the minute. So it will be a tough ask of West Ham United. Now, before I get into opposition's key players, our key players, and all those things besides, let's just go through a little bit of squad news. Let's start with Liverpool. So they have out for them Connor Bradley and Ibrahima Konate. They are not going to feature in the game at London Stadium tomorrow unless they make some Lazarus-like recovery. Also missing will be Dominik Szoboszlai, who picked up his 5th yellow card of the season in the Boxing Day victory at Anfield against Leicester City. They won that match 3-1. But if we now turn to the other side, we've got problems of our own. We'd had quite a good run of having players available for the bulk of the season, with the exception of Fulkrug until recently. We'd not really had players that were sitting on the treatment table. But now, whether it's the treatment table or whether they're just suspended or whether they're concussed and they need to sit out for a period of time, we've got quite a few players out for this one. So obviously we know that Michail Antonio, we're not going to see him this season. We're pretty much resigned to that. Now, Łukasz Fabiański obviously was substituted during the win at Southampton on Boxing Day, where he was a concussion substitution. Now, because he was a concussion substitution, he cannot be utilised in league matches or any matches of any description for 10 days from the incident, which means he will be out of the game at Liverpool, against Liverpool, not at Liverpool. It's at London Stadium. He will be out of that game. He will also be out of the game away to Manchester City. So therefore, I think it's fairly safe to assume when we come to the teams, it will probably be Alphonse Areola between the sticks, unless Julian Lopetegui throws a curveball. Also out is Tomáš Souček and Guido Rodríguez, who picked up their 5th booking of the season. Again, I've said this before, discipline is proving to be something of an issue. And I think we need to really sort of curb down on it and deal with this situation because it's getting ridiculous. Excuse me. Also, so as I say, Tomáš Souček and Guido Rodríguez are out with suspension. Łukasz Fabiański is out with on the concussion protocols. Now, substituted at half-time in the win at Southampton was Carlos Soler with a knee injury. Now, there is obviously, therefore, a very real possibility that he will not make the matchday squad against Liverpool. We will see. I don't know the severity of the knee injury. I don't believe it's anything serious like an ACL or anything like that. But it was clearly enough that the manager gave him the Shepherds at half-time. Another one, which again is something for me that I sort of scratch my head at, is the shoulder injury sustained during the first half to Max Kilman that necessitated his substitution during the first half. I call me old school, and I probably am a little bit of an old dinosaur, a relic, whatever you want to call me. I'm 49 years of age now. So to a lot of you people watching, I may well be a little bit of an old git. But I just look and I go, unless it was a dislocated shoulder, why is he coming off? Could I imagine Billy Bonds or Alvin Martin with a shoulder injury being substituted during the first half, unless it was a dislocated shoulder? And even then, they'd probably still want to play on. And the answer to that is no. I was quite disappointed. I can't lie. But apparently he is a doubt. So there, straight away. So let's go through it. Michail Antonio, we know he's not going to be available. Tomáš Souček, Guido Rodríguez, we know are not going to be available. Łukasz Fabiański, we know is not going to be available. Probably not available, in all likelihood not available, but we'll see, are Max Kilman and Carlos Soler. That is 6 players. If all of them are out, like I say, 4 of them are definites, 2 of them are very likely, 6 players out. And they are first teamers. It's not like they're substitutes, they're bench warmers by and large, with the possible exception of Guido Rodríguez. They're players that, if they were available, are very, very likely to have been starting against Liverpool. That puts us in a very tricky situation. Very tricky situation. I mean, it would put us in a tricky situation no matter who we were playing, but to be playing against the league leaders puts us really in the brown stuff. It really does. Now, who's the opposition key player? Well, look, you go through it. It's a glittering array. I mean, you could turn around and say that it's probably the obvious one would be, say, Mohamed Salah, right? That would probably be the obvious one. And when you look at the stats that have just flashed up, he's top in goals, he's top in assists. That is probably the one that you would point at. But I probably am going to go a little bit at the other end of the pitch. And I'm a big believer that you cannot, and as I say, forgive me for this, ladies and gentlemen, because that league table does not include the fixtures that took place last night. I put this together prior to those games, so do forgive me. But that basically, Liverpool are still top and we are still 13th. So it doesn't really make much difference as far as the respective teams in the game at London Stadium tomorrow is concerned. So I would say our opposition key player, as I say, because I'm a believer that, you can score as many goals as you want, but if you're leaky at the back, you're not going to achieve anything. And for me, Virgil van Dijk is an absolutely key component of that. Morning, Joan. Just seen your comment there. I don't think it matters much. We've got 5 changes pending. You're probably right, but hope springs eternal, and we've got a puncher's chance. You never know. Anyway, so I would say that Virgil van Dijk is their key player because he keeps it tight at the back. Okay, so as it's come up with that little graphic, I probably should explain my thinking here, which probably doesn't take a lot of explaining because probably West Ham fans will look at that, know the situation that we're in, and readily be able to decipher it. Now, this is the team that I would put out, and there's one player that I did and ah about. There's one player that I did and ah about, and you're right, Togger. You're right. Puncher's chance. I remember Buster Douglas against Mike Tyson. What was he, a 52-1 on underdog? And we all know what happened. If you're old enough to remember that, you might be a bit younger than me. Good morning. Hope you are well. I say, do excuse me, coughing and spluttering and whatever. So anyway, let's go through it. So Alphonse Areola in goal. Again, probably doesn't take much explanation. Łukasz Fabiański would have been my starting goalkeeper. He has been in sensational form by and large. So I think he would have started were it not for the concussion rules. But the concussion rules are clear. When you have a concussion for 10 days, you must not be involved in a match. So he will not be involved tomorrow. He will not be involved against Manchester City. Therefore, Alphonse Areola, unless Julian Lopetegui wants to take the risk and put Wes Foderingham in goal, then Alphonse Areola will be the starting goalkeeper, I'm pretty sure, and that is who I would choose anyway. As I say, emphasize, this is my 11. This is not necessarily what I think that Julian Lopetegui will necessarily pick, although it may well be the same. You never know. But my back four, and you'll probably notice the fullbacks, obviously, Wan-Bissaka being played on the left and Kufel coming in on the right. Now, my thinking here is very, very simple. It's good to know. Good to know, Sean. That I don't want to sort of like be the only old fart amongst us. But thanks for coming, mate. Hope you are well. Hope you had a good Christmas. Excuse me. So, yeah, so I would have Wan-Bissaka in at left back. I would have Kufel at right back. Now, again, I'm going to go back to the Bournemouth game when this was the setup with Wan-Bissaka left, Kufel right. And I think Kufel had a good game. Not a world beater, but he had a good game. He did what he needed to do. He did it well. I've not been overly impressed with Emerson this season. I think he's looked not quite the player that he was when he first arrived at the club, when you looked at him and thought, wow. But obviously sort of Kufel's reward, and Emerson missed out. What a surprise. That was a suspension. We love picking up suspensions, this team. But Kufel had a good game, and his reward the following game against Brighton was he was back on the bench. Now, I don't think that the messaging there is really good, because what you're turning around and saying sort of subliminally to the guy that was suspended, it doesn't matter that you've been suspended. It doesn't matter that you've not been playing well this season, and that the guy that's effectively replaced you has come in and done well. You can come straight back into the fold. I don't think that's good messaging to that player. I also don't think it's good messaging to the player that effectively replaced him in Vladimir Kufel. That's great. You've had a good game, but basically you're back on the bench, mate, and it didn't make a blind bit of difference as far as you're concerned. I don't think that that's good messaging. For me, I think he should have stayed in. He didn't. And obviously, we've played the Brighton game, we've played the Southampton game, and we've had Emerson at left back, Wan-Bissaka at right back. Now, I did say that Walker Peters did lead Wan-Bissaka a bit of a merry dance against Southampton, and I maintain that. Now, there's a lot of stats that have been put out that paint Aaron Wan-Bissaka in possibly a more positive light. And I'm not saying that he had a crap game. Believe me, I'm not saying he had a crap game. What I'm saying is that he was got at quite a bit. But I think he sort of like he gave as good as he got. Let's put it like that. But on the left, on our left, and their right, will be Mo Salah. Now, how do I think it would go Mo Salah versus Emerson? Well, Emerson got led a merry dance by that Sugawara. Well, Sugawara is probably a tenth of the player that Mo Salah is. And I think that probably our best bet would be to put Wan-Bissaka on the left to try and shackle him as much as possible. Now, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I mean, Mo Salah is world class. Wan-Bissaka, whilst he's a good player, I don't believe he's world class. I don't think he's on that level. But I think he would deal with the threat of Mo Salah much better, in my opinion, than Emerson would. So I would move him across to that side of our defence and bring in Vladimir Coufal. Now, Max Kilman, now look, if he was fit, I'm working on the basis with this 11. I'm working on the basis that those 6 players that I've mentioned in Antonio, which we know, Fabiański, which we know is not going to be available through the concussion substitution. Souček and Rodríguez, we know are not going to be available through suspension. The doubts are Kilman and Soler. I'm going to work on the principle that they're not available. Now, if they are available, then what I will say is I would have Kilman in as the left centre-back and I would have Todibo in as the right centre-back. I've not been overly impressed with Todibo. I've said that on a number of occasions, but I think that I would say that I'll probably be happier with him alongside Kilman than Mavropanos. He's always got a rick in him, that boy. He can play well for 89 minutes and he makes a mistake that gives away a key goal. Excuse me. Eyeball test is more important than stats. Yeah, I mean, I do believe, yes, you can have, you could turn around and say with stats that a horse is actually a camel or something like that, couldn't you, Togger? So, yeah, you're absolutely correct. I mean, like I say, stats, that the eyeball test, I take them in conjunction with one another. But yeah, so it'd be Mavropanos and Todibo at the back. But if Kilman is available, it would be Kilman on the left, Todibo on the right. Now, the central defensive midfield partnership, I think Alvarez, look, again, I've not been overly impressed with him this season, it has to be said. There's a little part of me that does wonder whether he's been found out a little bit. He had a really good first season, although towards the end of the first season, it tailed off. And this season, I don't think he's quite been at his best. As I say, he's had a couple of sendings off and all the rest of it. There's been stories that he and the manager don't see eye to eye. But I think for this one, because Souček's out, because Rodríguez is out, not that I'd have started Rodríguez, it has to be said. I've not been overly impressed with him. But I think on the basis of what we've got to deal with, I think Alvarez has to play. Now, this is the one that I ummed and ahed about. Who's his partner? There was a part of me that wondered whether Andy Irving should come in. Because, as I say, and I've been saying it for a little while, I do think that he had a good pre-season and everybody was sort of like waxing lyrical about him, and he's barely kicked a ball since. Apparently, Celtic were in for him, and it's rumoured, it's believed that Lopetegui convinced Andy Irving to stay. So, by virtue of that, you'd think that there were conversations about playing time. And he's got very little of it since. So I think he could feel quite aggrieved. Now, the story is that apparently Celtic are still interested. And I suspect that if there's a deal to be done, I think he probably will be off. As I say, I did and ah about putting Andy Irving alongside Alvarez. I also did and ah about putting Lewis Orford in there. But then I thought to myself, putting a youngster in for his first Premier League start at the London Stadium against a team that's absolutely ripping it up at the top end of, is that the right thing to do? For him, he'd probably, on the one hand, he'd remember that debut for the rest of his life. But seriously, he's on a hiding to nothing there. He's going to get absolutely, torn a new one in all likelihood Is that the right game to bring him in? I have my doubts. So in the end, on balance, I decided to bring back Lucas Paqueta, who obviously had a suspension. Yes, another player with a suspension. We do love a suspension in this club. And Joan would also have played Irving. As I say, I did give it due consideration. I'm just wondering whether a lack of Premier League game time might affect his match sharpness. And look, you could argue that Lucas Paqueta has not exactly looked sharp as attack this season, it has to be said, but he would obviously be up to the speed, the pace of Premier League football. Would Irving be with all the time he's been sitting on the bench? I'm not convinced. So I think on balance, I think Paqueta has to go in there. Crysencio Somerville for me on the left. I think that he's been okay this season, but I think that he probably needs to have more involvements in goals and assists than he has done. But you could probably argue that part of the reason that it's been a little bit sort of hit and miss is because his time on the pitch has been a bit hit and miss. So it's probably 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I mean, he does carry the ball from back to front really effectively. He's rapid. So I think that pace could be something that we could obviously get at, but he's got to be directly up against Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's no slouch in the pace stakes himself. Jared Bowen on the right obviously got the goal at Southampton. He's our captain. He's our leader. He's our key player. What can I say? Without him, we'd have been screwed this season. So he's obviously on the right. I wouldn't be moving him up top, and I'll explain my reasons why in a minute. Mohamed Kudus, okay, mate, let's see you through the middle. I mean, you've been moaning about the fact that you're on the left and it's not your position and this, that, and the other. Okay, fine. Let's see you central. Let's see what you're all about. Have a go at them. I mean, this is apparently the team that everybody thinks you're going to, so this is a little bit of an audition for you, right? So let's see what you how you do against the likes of Virgil van Dijk and the others. You're going central. Do your damage. Go where you want to go. That would be my take on it. Now, the striker. Now, a lot of people don't think that Nicholas Füllkrug had a particularly good game. I disagree to an extent, and I'm not saying he was a world beater. I'm not saying he went out there and played like Robert Lewandowski or anything like that. But bear in mind, he flicked the ball on for Jared Bowen. That was a key part. He got an assist. He's had a lot of time on the bench and he's had a lot of time on the treatment table, more to the point. And he's still getting up to fitness. He's still getting up to sharpness. And I don't think he's looked horrendously bad. He's not the quickest, but he never was. We never bought a rapid striker anyway. So I think I'd be putting him up top and just sort of like trying to give him more minutes, give him a little bit more confidence. I thought, in the physical contest that he had with his opposite numbers, I think he did all right. I don't think he was any slouch. I think I'd give him this one. I think he'd give him this one to sort of like show what he's all about. He'll probably see very little of the ball because we'll probably see very little of the ball. Let's be honest with you. I'm probably expecting a match where we see something probably in the region of 20 to 30% possession during the course of the game. That wouldn't really surprise me. Sean comes in to say Paqueta gives the ball away a lot, though. I'd be tempted to give Irving a run out. Do you know what? The more people come in and say, I mean, like I say, I did and ah about Irving. I'm just wondering whether his lack of match time might be a factor. But as I say, it wasn't a resounding sort of like Paqueta's got to play. I've got to be honest with you. And I might even change my mind between now and the end of this broadcast because a lot of you will probably convince me that Irving probably deserved the run out. Lopetegui will probably go 6 at the back. Wouldn't be surprised if Cresswell played. Yeah, you're right there. Hopefully Somerville will get plenty of crosses in for Füllkrug. Hopefully so. Excuse me. So yeah, so that would be my team. That would be my team. What would your team be? Get it in the comment section. Let us know what your team would be. But I think that probably that by and large is going to be. Daniel comes in to say Irving should start. My thinking is Paqueta is close to him. Do you know what? That's a really great point, and that wasn't in my thinking. And do you know what? Possibly, as I say, I did consider either Irving or Orford. As I say, I do think that Orford As much as I think that he's a talent, as much as I think that we should be playing him more than we are, I think I'd probably be tempted to maybe bring him on for the last sort of like 10 minutes or so of this match. Absolutely. But to start him, I think you're sort of like throwing a lamb to the wolves a little bit there, to be honest with you. So I think I would probably sort of steer clear of that. So who would be West Ham's key player? Well, it's as I say, I mentioned him earlier. It's clearly going to be Jared Bowen, isn't it? You know, he's our captain. He's our top goal scorer. He now stands second in the all-time list on his own in terms of Premier League goals scored at West Ham United. He is he will be by the time he's finished, and he may already be in some people's eyes a club legend. He certainly has a legendary moment in Prague, that is for sure. Whatever happens from here on in, he has that legendary moment. Is he a legend? I think he's probably close to it if he isn't there already, to be honest with you. He's probably cemented that by becoming captain as well. That just adds an extra layer of credibility to that particular tag. You know, not many people get to become the club captain at West Ham United. So you go into an elite level of players. There's not many players that have scored a winning goal in a cup final, a winning goal in a European final. And as I say, for him to be second top in the list of Premier League goal scorers, I know there was football before the Premier League. I am old enough to remember it. But yeah, he's our key player tomorrow. And if we've got any chance whatsoever, and let's be honest, I try to be optimistic about most things, and I try not to sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater. I always try and be glass half full. You may have noticed that. To my detriment, that sometimes is, but that is just my default position. I try to be glass half full. We have a very, very slim chance of getting anything out tomorrow, let alone a draw, but a win. But we need Jared Bowen to be on top form. We need Jared Bowen to be his absolute sharpest, in terms of movement, in terms of his pace, in terms of his alertness, and in terms of his finishing. Because we won't have much of the ball tomorrow. So it is really important that when we have the ball, we get the ball from back to front quickly and effectively whilst their team is still in disarray. And that if any time he's got the ball, he does one of two things with it. He either finds Fulkrug or another player that's in a better position than him to put the ball away, or he takes the shot on and he finishes with, the efficiency, with the effectiveness that we're known for seeing him. Kent's in the chat, and Kent has come in with his team. As I say, if you guys have got a team that you'd like to see, and it's the team that you would pick, not necessarily what you think Lopetegui goes with, and which is exactly the same as what I do. Kent's gone with Areola, Emerson. Okay, Emerson at left back, Mavropanos, Todibo, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Alvarez, Pac-Man, Soler if fit, Jimmy, Bowen, Kudus. So my question, Ken, if Soler is not fit, who would replace him? Come back at me. Daniel says, if we're looking at a defeat, then why not put in Guilherme? Man's got pace and skill over Kufal. Again, lack of match sharpness. Is this the game to put him in, Daniel? I think for someone that's barely kicked a ball, they're probably on a hiding to nothing for them to come in against a team like this and expect that they're sort of like gonna do much. Here's the thing where I sort of wonder whether we can make a case for looking at those two form tables. Our form is not in the last 5 Premier League matches, not drastically different from Liverpool's. I know that you could turn around and say that the performances the score lines are a little bit more in terms of the victories. They're more convincing than ours. But like I say, it's a contest. There's 2 teams in there. It's 11 v 11. You don't know. They could have an injury and I'm not wishing it. Well, maybe I am a little bit. There could be an injury to a key player on the other team. There could be a sending off. There could be any number of things that during the course of 90 minutes changes the momentum, changes the pattern of the game. But I don't expect that we can sort of hang our hat on that. So let's come to score prediction, shall we? Look, let's be complete. Like I say, I'm not going to say that there's no chance of us getting anything. We do go into this as huge underdogs. Make no mistake. You know, you look there at their worst defeat this season, a 1-0 home defeat against Nottingham Forest. That's their worst defeat this season. Our worst defeat is a 5-2 home defeat against Arsenal. The thing that makes me chuckle there, though, does make me smile, I've got to admit, their biggest win. Yeah, I do chuckle at that one. And I probably need to be quiet because my missus is a Spurs fan and she's in close proximity and she might throw something at my head. But that I'll leave it there. Like I say, we're going to be very hard pressed to get anything. We've got injuries, we've got suspensions, players who are concussed that would have made the starting 11, I'm fairly convinced, and they are not going to be available for this one tomorrow. We're up against it. We are up against it. Togger's come in to say, we've scored 5, they've scored 16. No surprise with the strike forces hoping for a point. Yeah, I mean, look, let's not make any mistake. Normally you say you win your home games and draw your away games and you'll be in good shape. This is an exception, and this is one where I would turn around and say, do you know what? If we got a point against Liverpool, mate, that is like a win. That is like a win. And I don't care how it comes. I don't care if it's a back-to-the-wall job where we've had about 15% possession. We're making blocks. We're making tackles. I was there roughly a year ago at the Emirates Stadium when we beat Arsenal. And I think Arsenal were top at the time. I might be mistaken. They were there or thereabouts. We played Arsenal. We went to the Emirates. And again, same as this, we were massive, massive underdogs. Everybody thought we was going to turn up and get our asses handed to us on a plate, myself included. And I was there that night, and we did get battered. We had bugger all of the ball. We was defending for pretty much the entirety of the 90 minutes, and we won 2-0. So these things can happen in football. These results do spring up from time to time. Am I expecting it? No. Do I expect anything other than a convincing defeat tomorrow? No. That is my expectation. But sometimes reality and expectation are two different things. Daniel comes in and says he reckons it will be a 5-2, and he says we'll put in a shift. That's all you can ask for, mate. That really is all you can ask for. If we put in a shift, if we play for the shirt, if we play for the fans, even if it's in a defeat, then as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing really more you can do. Are they better than us? Yes. Should they beat us? Yes. Kent comes in and says, move Kudus up front of Pac-Man and play the big effing German. 4-1 loss, worst best outcome, 2-2. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, my expectation is that if we can keep the score down below a 2-3 goal margin, we've probably done well. Because with everything we've got to deal with at the minute, that's probably where I'm looking at. Adrian, hope you're well. Says more chance of me breaking Brands Hatch lap record today than us getting anything. 1-5. You at Brands Hatch today, mate? Only down the road from me. Jones says Areola will do well, I think, as I reckon he was injured when he was dropped. Hopefully, it won't be a cricket score. Well, look, like I say, it's he's got an opportunity, so we'll see how he goes. But he needs to be on top form. He was, yeah, both Oggy and Mavropanos. I do wonder whether moving all three of the centre backs on in the summer was now a mistake in retrospect. I think that keeping one of them, and I'll be honest with you, I love Oggy, but I think probably his race was run, and he had a great night that night, but it was probably the last stand of Angelo Ogbonna as we knew him. So yeah, I probably would have kept Aguirre, and I actually think Aguirre would have been really good in this setup. We're playing a sort of high line. I think he was hampered by the fact that we played a low block under David Moyes. I've said this on a number of occasions because I think that when your most potent weapon is recovery pace and you're playing a low block, that weapon is kind of blunted. Whereas when you're playing in a team that plays a little bit further up the pitch and you've got recovery pace, now it's much more there on show for people. Nick, hope you're well. Only funny singing feeder scouser. Lose 3-2, Salah dive is the most likely. Do you know what, though? Again, if we lost 3-2, Nick, let's be honest with you. Most people think that we're going to get absolutely annihilated, and probably we will. So if we only lost by by 3 goals to 2, and it's as a result of Salah diving in the box for them to get a last-minute penalty, although we'll have lost, we will take it as a moral victory, mate. We absolutely will. Don't worry about that. But anyway, my score prediction, probably very similar to Daniel. I'm probably going to say that we are going to turn up for this one. But do you know what? I will say this. We need to play our part. And when I say we, I am talking the fans that are in the ground for tomorrow's game. We absolutely need to play our part. And we need to be loud. We need to be vociferous, because I'll be honest with you, I have been very disappointed with the atmosphere at London Stadium of late. Very, very disappointed. And we're all part of that. All the people in the stadium are part of that. And you could turn around and say it's the crap football, but we need to be the catalyst for change, because when all's said and done, the players come and go, the managers come and go, the fans are a constant. We need to be behind the team. We need to absolutely roar them on. My expectation for tomorrow is a 5-2 defeat. And I'll be fine with that, so long as it's a 5-2 defeat where we have moments in the game, we have flurries, we have moments where we are defiant. If we succumb, so be it. But so long as we do it trying to put one on them. Our goal difference is appalling, says Joan. We will probably lose 3-0. I'd like to see us get on the score sheet. I mean, there's been a prediction for 5-2 from Daniel. I'm going to go with that. I think if we kept it to a 3-goal margin or below, I think we've probably done well by and large. And if we can score a couple of goals, like I say, 5-2 works for me. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be happy to lose. I'm absolutely not happy to lose, but I think you have to be quite realistic and say they're top of the table. They're absolutely running away with it. Hasn't Arne Slot done a good job when you stop and think about it? Because he went into a team, yes, I know it was a ready-made team, a ready-made winning machine, although they come close and not quite got over the line a lot of the time. But he's come in, he seems to have taken them to another level. Although I do think to myself, maybe he's been kind of helped by the demise of Manchester City and them falling off a cliff. And Arsenal just being Arsenal, really. So most expensive seat tomorrow is over £100 category AA game. That's an absolute disgrace, isn't it? Absolute disgrace. But that probably feeds into why the atmosphere is so crap, Ken. I don't know whether you agree with my theory here, but please come back at me and let me know what you think. When you've got a £100 game, a £100 seat, in a game against Liverpool, prestige team in the Premier League, round Christmas time, probably that does strike out a lot of the working class element that would probably make more of noise than maybe someone that's maybe not quite so vociferous and maybe not such an avid team, a supporter of the team. This is the change that's happening in football. There's more and more of the working class element, the traditional support that's being driven out because they can't afford it. Every year I have to make a choice. Every year I have to make a decision on whether I can, whether I can't, whether I will, whether I won't pay the money for a season ticket. And it's getting closer, mate, where I might have to sort of seriously think about chucking it in the bin. Might be a damage limitation kind of game. Also, would you consider moving Bowen up top, Kudus on the right? I'd consider it, but I think that Bowen, for me, is at his best when he's on the right, and he is our best player. He has been our best player. You might make the argument that Kudus is our best player. You might make the argument that Paqueta is our best player. And maybe in terms of their skill set, maybe they are better than Bowen. But in terms of what they've actually produced this season, they're not 100%. But yeah, my score prediction, like I say, I'll come back to it. 5-2 defeat. if we can do that while planting a couple of blows on them at certain points and giving them a hard time and making them earn those goals, making them earn the 3 points, if that is what they are going to walk away from the London Stadium with, then personally, I would count that to be something of a moral victory. Togger comes back in. Loppy will pick an 11 with at least one head scratcher. As I say, yeah, he did that against Southampton. I did sort of scratch my head at Rodríguez. But maybe there's things going on behind the scene that we just don't know about. But anyway, I said this would be a quick one from me, and this has been 40 minutes long. You guys have kept me chatting away like a good one. But listen, I do appreciate it. Right, I'm going to get ready now because little window into my life. I'm now going to disappear up to Hammersmith, dressed as Del Boy from Only Fools and Horses. I'll take a photograph, I promise, and I'll share it with you when we next reconvene, which will probably be for the Liverpool review. But Cresswell, the head scratcher. Do you know what? I'm not quite sure he'd be a head scratcher if we played 3 centre-backs. If we played 3 centre-backs, I'd probably say that could make sense. If we was to play him at left-back, I'm not quite so sure. And Togger agrees with Joan. So, Ken, I'd agree with that. Or also, the old West Ham is only at away games unless it's big cup game at home. I agree. Yeah, that is. I don't get to go to away games as much as I'd like to. It's a very, very rare event. And obviously, you helped me out with, was it 2 seasons ago with the Fulham ticket? And I do appreciate that, Ken. I don't get to go to away games as much as I would like. I did put in for the ballot for the game at Southampton. I didn't get lucky. But yeah, I'll be honest with you, the away game atmospheres are far, far better than the home games. Home games, I stand up, block 203, I kid you not, I stand up, I try and get a chant going, whether it's, a rendition of Bubbles, whether it's a rendition of Bowen's on Fire, whether it's whatever it is, I stand up, I try and sing, and I'm lucky if I've got maybe 2 or 3 people joining in. I really am. I'm not, it's no exaggeration. If you don't believe me, come up to block 201, 203 with me, and I'll do it. I'll stand up, I'll try and get a chant going, and I will be arsehole lucky if there's more than 2 or 3 that catch on. It's appalling. It really is. And you end up feeling, after about sort of 30 seconds of standing up, and you look, everyone's looking at you going, who's this idiot, sort of thing, and you feel a little bit like, and then you retract into your shell a little bit. I do, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people do, because you just sort of think, well, what's the point? What's the point of this? I'm wasting my time. So anyway, just my little moan, just my little sort of like old git moment. But anyway, I'm gonna disappear now. As I say, got to get myself up to London, get myself up to Hammersmith. As I say, I'm going as Del Boy from Only Fools and Horses. I will take a photograph. I've managed to get myself a sheepskin coat. I've got myself a flat cap, and yeah, I think I'll look the part. I've even got as a prop a cigar, and I don't smoke. It's not a real cigar. It's just a prop. It's like a joke cigar from a joke shop sort of thing, not the real thing. But I will take a photograph. I will share it with you guys when we next have the next stream, which will probably be the review of the Liverpool game. So I'll have to get something set up for that, won't I? So, but anyway, guys. Just a little comment there. I went to the show last week. Excellent. I have seen Only Fools and Horses musical before when it had its run at Haymarket. Which was, I think that was just before COVID, if I remember correctly. Really enjoyed it, really good. And I wouldn't say no to going seeing it again. And I didn't. My brother offered it to me and I said, yep, let's do it. So I'm going to get myself ready, have a shave, have a wash, get changed into me finery, get myself up to Hammersmith. We're going for a couple of beers beforehand. We're going for a couple of beers afterwards. It could be a bit messy. I might feel a bit worse for wear when I'm at the game. Thank you very much, Joan. Do appreciate that. And all you guys that have been here, listening to me, getting involved in the chat, or just sitting there in the background, do appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Last time I looked, we was at 1428 subscribers. So, every step we make forwards, yes, roller neck jumper, red, yes, absolutely. I think it looks the part, mate. I will take a photograph and I will share it with you. But yeah, listen, As I say, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already done so. Make sure you drop a like on the stream, because that's what really sets the wheels turning on the old YouTube algorithms. You know, and maybe even consider sharing this onto your social media platforms to let people that wouldn't otherwise know that we're here, that we are here, and that maybe they might want to join in. So anyway, guys, thanks all very much for your help. As far as help's concerned, please also don't forget to give your help to the Iron Supporting Food Banks charity. They really could do with it at this Christmas, New Year period. Some people less fortunate than ourselves that struggle to put food on the table. So don't forget to give your support to them. Come on, you Irons. Hopefully a fighting performance, if nothing else. And we'll see you for the Liverpool review. Take care, guys.
Iron Supporting Food Banks collects food and cash donations for needy families in Newham Borough and beyond. Please consider making a donation via their Just Giving page, the link for which you will find in the description section of this stream. Come on, you Irons.